Hello, Read 508. Welcome back to part 2 of our week 15 discussion. I just have a few more points that I would like to talk about, and then we'll move on to watching the videos. So there were three definitions in here, aside from this idea of new literacies, that I thought were of importance to you, and those all dealt with literacy. And so this idea of visual literacy, which would be the ability to derive meaning from the images that we encounter. And so we know that particularly today, there are lots of images that students are kind of bombarded with, or I mean anybody's bombarded with, not just students, but you get these from like moving images that you might see on the computer or in video or on television or in film. You get these from more static images, so in terms of looking at art or photography, but this idea that there's a responsibility by educators to include visual literacy as part of the idea of overall literacy that we're aiming for with our students is important, I think extremely relevant today, since students come across more images than ever. And so not just can students derive meaning from them, but they understand, they can evaluate, critique, analyze, all of those things in terms of dealing with the images that they come across. So then there's media literacy, and that's understanding, evaluating, and producing material for print and other media. So in terms of media, can they interact with multiple types of media? So can they interact with printed text? Can they interact with text online? Can they interact with video or anything that they watch to understand, evaluate, critique, and can they then produce material in those different media? So that would be considered being media literate, that they are not just doing your traditional reading and then writing, but that they can use multi forms of media to create their projects or express their understanding or communicate a message. And so that's kind of digital literacy is kind of a sub piece of media literacy, and that's how students interpret, or their interpretation of the non-verbal symbolic systems and construction of the sounds, the images, the graphics, etc. to communicate. So can kids use those digital tools to communicate, convey messages, etc. So kind of different ways that we've expanded our definition of literacy. If you think about the previous discussion on Screencast 1 in terms of new literacies, and this idea of there's not just one type of literacy, but you've got literacy in terms of visual, media, and digital. So new literacy and the Common Core state standards. So there's, in the end of these two slides, there's a link to an article I'd like you to read from ASCD. It's an easy read, but it's really neat because what they do is, I'm sure you're all aware that this emphasis on being able to, be college and career ready with the Common Core takes into account these ideas of new literacies and the digital tools that students need to be able to access and use and be competent with and be able to communicate with. They're all over the Common Core, and so I just pulled a couple of standards, and these standards are addressed in the article. But if you look right here, it says reading standards for literature integration of knowledge and ideas from grade 7. So compare and contrast a written story, drama, or poem to its audio, film, stage, or multimedia version. So this kind of goes beyond the old, read the book Charlotte's Web and then watch the movie Charlotte's Web, and let's compare and contrast what's different about what happened in the movie and what happened in the book, which is an activity that teachers have been doing for a long time and is a good activity. But this idea of being visually literate and media literate and digitally literate now includes so much more than just what was different about the storyline. So what they want students to be able to do now is that second piece right here. Analyze the effects of techniques unique to each medium. For example, lighting, sound, color, camera focus, angles in a film. So not just, what parts were different in the book than in the movie, but what effects did the director use in the movie, and that obviously you didn't have in the book, and why were they used? So why was why does the music change in a suspenseful part? Why is the lighting low? What are some of the camera angles or techniques that a director can use to provide emphasis or de-emphasize something that's happening? So you would have the students comparing or analyzing why they use that based on their knowledge of the events or things that happened in the book and what the author intended. So you're kind of actually looking at telling a story through two different mediums. So how does an author convey what's important, and then how would a director do those things, because those are two different mediums. So that's a very different approach to this idea of literacy, that students should be able to do both. And it's going to take time for people to be able to teach that, because that is actually a standard that is in language arts in the Common Core. One of my friends was actually, she teaches 8th grade, and she was teaching this, and she was kind of losing her mind because she's saying, I don't know anything about camera angles. And she had done this activity in the past. It was with a short story and a movie clip, and she actually had the movie version, and then the district provided her with a different version of the movie that emphasized these different camera angles and lightings and things that they wanted her to look at. And she was, she said, I don't even know what this is, so how can I have my students do it? So a lot of learning on both parts, because we were not necessarily, those of us who were teachers, we were not necessarily trained to be literate in all of these areas, so we have to learn it as well. So that's just kind of one example. But with the article, oops, sorry. Where's my next one? There we go. No, it's the same one. Okay, so just an example, this grade 8 standard, use technology, including the internet, to produce and publish writing, present relationships between information and ideas efficiently, as well as interact and collaborate with others. So again, not just necessarily having students use the use PowerPoint and give a PowerPoint presentation, but using a variety of online or digital tools to do their projects and to write, so that they're not just writing on pen and paper anymore. And so this article is neat because what it does is it takes some of those standards and it talks about how each of those standards could be used to meet a different element of new literacies, and gives kind of examples of either things that are happening or things teachers could do. So I'd like you to read the article. It's a quick read, and I think it's an interesting read. All right, so in terms of what goes on in the rest of the chapter, the book kind of covers different tools that are out there for teachers to use to enhance their literacy instruction. And so I think it's a really valuable resource for you to read through, particularly if you're not familiar with some of these technologies. The book does provide kind of a good primer on what some of those are. For the rest of the thread, though, I'm going to include a series of videos, so I would like you to go ahead and follow the instructions that are on your checklist in terms of watching those videos and posting on the forum. And so then, like I said in the beginning, this is going to be our last kind of content-related forum for the semester. Next week you will be participating in the forum, but the difference will be it will be around the position paper, and so you'll be doing some asking questions and getting feedback on your position papers. So with that, I would like to congratulate you on getting all the way through week 15. We are almost at the end of the semester, so we've got just that one big assignment out there, and like I said, I will put some more information about that, and I will see if I can dig up, if I didn't put, I'm not sure if I put up a sample already, but to see if I can dig up a sample from a previous semester for you. So have a great week.